my equestrian friends, it's me, Lisa, the Budget Equestrian. Welcome back to another video. And today I thought it would be kind of fun to share with you guys what I do with my horse at home. Because some people have horses that they keep at a boarding facility, some people have horses that they keep at home, and some kind of have the luxury of doing both. Not too many people, but I don't have that luxury of doing both or being in a boarding facility. I have my horse here at home with me, and I love being able to look outside my back door and see my horse. But at the same time, it's also a little bit challenging because all of his care and everything that goes into having a horse is on me, totally on me, which is not a bad thing. I knew what I was signing up for when I did this, but I have found since that my horse is at home, I ride a lot less than I would if my horse was boarded. I have had horses before a long time ago that were in a boarding facility, and I seemed to ride a lot more because I wasn't responsible for all of the upkeep, going to the feed store, mixing all the feed, all of that stuff. Cleaning stalls, everything else was left up to somebody else to do. I paid for it, but it did give me more time to ride instead of doing all the horse chores. However, I've lived in this house for 15 years now, I think. That's a long time. That's a long time of every day feeding, cleaning twice a day, sometimes more than that, and spending time with my horse. So it makes me really happy that I do have that opportunity. But I just wanted to share with you, in case you were curious, what it's like to have a horse at home. So my day usually starts pretty early. Monday through Friday, I'm usually up by 5, but on the weekends, sometimes I sleep in a little bit. The one thing that does stay constant is what time Frisby gets fed. Every morning, Frisby gets his food at about 7:15 a.m., regardless if I'm working or not. So the day starts with feeding Frisby, and that means getting the hay net and getting his grain. If he has a blanket on, sometimes that means I'm blanketing him too. And then I also have to do things like feed the chickens and get ready for the day. I try to do the same thing every day, whether it's a day that I'm going to work or whether it's a day that I get to spend with Frisby. So things like checking the water, unplugging the heater, and just kind of, getting motivated to go do something. So after that's all done and Frisby has had his hay, it's a couple of hours later, then he gets to be turned out. Sometimes I turn him out in my little back pasture where I recently replanted it, so there is some grass out there. Even though it's the middle of October, we have been watering it just to make sure it's green and still growing, so that way Frisby can enjoy some fresh grass. Otherwise, he just gets turned out in the paddock area, which is basically everywhere, just not his stall. And after he gets turned out, then it's time to clean the stall. I find that if I do this on a daily basis, it really doesn't take very much time. When I had 2 horses, it was a lot more labor intensive for some reason, but I find with just having Frisby, it's really pretty easy. I can muck out his stall and clean his pen in probably about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is why I choose to clean the stall and pen every day. Sometimes if the weather is bad, it may not get done, but definitely every other day, regardless of the weather, but I prefer to do it every day. I also make sure that his inside stall is clean and that his water bucket in his stall is full. Sometimes this means taking it out because this bucket insulator really doesn't insulate that well. So I do find that I have to have extra buckets. And since I don't have running water right at the barn, a lot of times I'll just fill the bucket with water from his big water trough. And since I have to leave pretty early to get to work during the week, I'll usually plan ahead and fill all of the hay nets that I have for the upcoming week. I have a lot of hay nets, and keeping them filled all of the time not only helps on a weekly basis with time, but it also helps me to keep track of how much hay I have and how much hay I'm using. And on the weekends, if the weather's nice, I also like to use the tractor to groom the arena, as well as pick up any manure that Frisby might leave behind. A lot of times I will let him out into the arena during the day, So yes, he's going to have some manure piles out there, but I don't like to have manure in the arena, so I try to pick that up before I rake it with the tractor. And one of my favorite things to do on the weekend is to organize and clean up the tack room. I make sure everything is swept out and all the bridles are hung up, my grooming kit is organized, and I just kind of check on my supplies and see if there's anything that I might need to get when I go into town for the week. And lately, Frisby and I have been doing a lot as far as riding or lunging or going and exploring our neighborhood. But I also like to make sure I give him a really good grooming. Typically, I will tie him at the hitching post and just bring out everything that I'm going to need. And sometimes I'm fortunate enough that I get to ride him on the weekend, especially if the weather's good. So a lot of times after I groom him, this is when we will go for a ride or go exploring or just spend some quality time together. And once I'm done riding or playing or doing whatever we just did, then a lot of times I do this right before dinner time. So then I get him ready to be brought in for the night, which goes a lot smoother after I've already made sure that his hay nets are filled, I've already made sure his water is taken care of, and his stall is nice and clean. If it's going to be cold and below freezing, then I will put his blanket on for the night, and then I tuck him in for the night and go back inside. And that is what I typically do on a weekend when it's not snowing with Frisby. Now in between that, I also have to fit in videos and blog posts for my blog, so that gets fit in there too. Typically, this is what a weekend looks like for me and Frisby, especially when the weather starts to get colder. When it's nice outside and the weather is better, usually I can spend some more time with him, but right now it's a little chilly, so I do a lot more inside things, but I make sure to get out and ride or groom him and just spend some time with him each and every day, regardless if it's a work day or a weekend day. I just get to go a little bit slower on the weekend days. Well, hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight of what it's like to have a horse at home. Now, I know everybody's situation is different and your barn setup may be different than mine, but the biggest thing to remember is just to make the most of the time that you do have with your horse. And yes, there's a lot of chores that need to be done, a lot of things you need to take care of on a daily basis, but you get to have your horse at home with you, which to me is worth more than anything. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and come back and watch all the other videos I have showing you how to make the most of the time that you have with your horse. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer too.